Practical shooting, yes or no? To a point. Let's discuss this. Welcome to the Armed Citizen channel, where you and I will discuss the finer and mostly undiscussed points of being an armed citizen. If you find my content valuable to you, please like, share, and subscribe, and maybe even drop a few coins in my tip jar to feed my ammo habit. Let's get on with it. All right, practical shooting. If you don't know what practical shooting is, it's where you have scenarios that you get to carry out that could be construed as defensive pistol situations or scenarios. And we have three basic organizations currently in the United States that have such a organized tournament structure. And they are IPSC, the International Practical Shooting Confederation. That was formed in 1976. And then came along the United States Practical Shooting Association, which is actually the official U.S. chapter for IPSC. That was chartered in 1984. And the new kid on the block is the IDPA, or International Defensive Pistol Association. They got organized in 1996. So I'm going to be talking about all three of them simultaneously here. This is nothing more than a 10,000-foot view of what happens with these organizations. And as far as any question about which group should you attend, which group is better than another, I can't give you that assessment. I was a member of IPSC back in the 90s. I competitively shot. After I got here in Memphis, I didn't do too bad. And then I had to step away from stuff like that for a few years, thanks to life circumstances. Last year, I did get to try some IDPA that is here in the Memphis area. And I had to step away from that again because of because of my job. The hours that I work at my current job, I get to clock out about the time those guys are cleaning up. They meet on Wednesday nights instead of on weekends. So your default organization is going to be whoever has the closest chapter to you. Now, there are regional and national level events that all of these guys hold, but you'll have to qualify through the local tournaments first. If you don't have any in your area, hey, make the effort, charter your own. If you don't like the current organization in your area, make the effort, charter one under an organization that you do like. There is no downside to joining one of these groups because, first of all, you get to meet a large number of like-minded people. And I'm sure you will form new friendships from that group of people. Now, each event for each of these organizations, in each event, you're going to have a certain number of stages, and each stage will have a course of fire, which is how to perform the stage and how the stage is scored. There's at least 3 different ways of scoring these things. They are all dependent upon the organization and several other factors. I'm sure there's just a whole bunch of stuff. And again, I'm not trying to get into the weeds on this. There are 2 basic types of stages. The first is a classifier or assessment. This is so you get put into groups of equally skilled participants, right? If you're a beginner, you don't want to get into the same division as the professional shooters. So they assess where you are and then keep you with that group. The second is the John Wick scenarios, where you go around and you engage multiple targets, and each stage is a unique experience in and of itself, so I can't describe that. As far as divisions where you are scored and assessed, and also depending upon the weapon you're using, IPSC has 5 divisions. Actually, they have 10, because each of those 5 divisions have what's called a major power and a minor power, which depends upon the slug you're throwing downrange. And again, that's a lot of detailed stuff that you will find out if you decide to go with IPSC or USPSA. IDPA actually has 8 divisions, depending upon what kind of slug thrower you're using. There is also 2 very broad categories here. We have you and I, the regular people, and then we also have the racers, the people who are in it to be competitive, who are trying to make it to the regional and national level events where cash and prizes are awarded. So you've decided that you want to try this, and you've found your local chapter. What should you do at this point? Show up unarmed. You are not allowed to have a loaded weapon at any time in or on the facility unless you are imminently going to run a stage. These guys are all very strict on safety. So don't bring your carry weapon in, leave it in the car. And you're going to leave it in the car because you're not going to participate. You're going to walk up to people and say, "Hi, I'm here to learn about this. I've never done this before. I would like to observe and ask questions if that's okay with you." And if you have a right-minded group, because some of them can be a little cliquish, I don't know who, not going to point anybody out, but if they are an open and welcoming group, they'll be all too glad to answer your questions. In a best-case scenario, you'll be assigned to, I guess, a mentor or ambassador who has taken it upon themselves exactly to do this, which is to answer the questions of first-time attendees. So you're going to observe how they do things. You're going to ask questions. Just don't ask questions while someone is actively in the stage, because you might distract them and bad things could happen. So you can even do this a second time at a second match if if you feel that your questions haven't been adequately answered. You can come back as many times and not participate. But once you do decide to strap up and participate in a match, I want you to aim for only 2 objectives. You're not going to win. You will be lucky if you're not the bottom performance guy or gal. What I want you to aim for is, first of all, don't get a DQ. A DQ is a disqualification. Your scores are 0 for the match, and you cannot continue on the match. You get a DQ when you point the weapon the wrong way, you're loaded when you shouldn't be loaded. Basically, it's all pretty severe safety violations. Don't get one of those. That's why you ask questions and observe things first so you don't get that DQ. The second is don't get any procedural errors. Well, what's a procedural error? This is where you don't follow the course of fire. One of the classifiers that I shot in at IDPA, we had 4 targets, and we were supposed to put 2 rounds in each target, strong hand only, perform a reload, switch to our support hand, and again, put 2 rounds in each target. Well, I ended up getting 8 procedural points, procedural errors. Why? Because I didn't switch to my support hand for the second half of the qualifier. Dumb guy. Yeah, I know. It happens. We all have mind farts, but let's try to avoid that for you. For the stock people, should you engage in practical shooting? Yes, unquestioningly. You don't have to show up to every event. You're not going to try and, get national rankings, but you should participate without a doubt. I mean, the skills that you have to practice and get good at in order to be somewhat competitive, at least, is what you will need in a real-life defensive situation, such as being able to quickly draw and fire your weapon, how to prioritize targets if you have multiple targets. You will encounter maybe what's called shoot or no shoot targets. So you have to be able to have the executive command. Your brain has to be working, and don't engage a target just because it's standing there. You have to assess, is it a threat? Is it not a threat? You also have to learn how to use concealment and cover. And in case you haven't heard those terms before, concealment can be construed as curtains you can't see through, but if they guess, they can shoot the concealment and hit you. Cover is going to be like a brick wall or a hill where they can shoot at you, and if they're right, the cover will stop the fire. And then last, moving and shooting. And in all of these organizations, you don't shoot while you're moving. You shoot, you move, you set yourself, and you resume your fire. These are all great skills in a self-defense situation. This is where the to the point comes in. If you want to be a racer or competitive shooter, go for it. Just realize that those guys are operating on another plane entirely. First of all, you'll have to invest a minimum of 10 times the training time you're doing now. So if you're doing an hour a week, look for a minimum of 10 hours. You have to up your game to be able to reach the competitive level. You will also need specialized equipment. You will need a non-carry belt, which will have a custom fast draw holster for the weapon of your choice. You're going to need specialized mag holders, and of course you're going to need a specialized firearm. When I was shooting IPSC back in the 90s, a lot of the guys that were competitive shooters, they were shooting a 1911 chambered for 38 special. And they went with 38 special because it was it had the power factor that barely made the major category. And you made the major category because the scoring was a little better than it is for the minor category. And again, that's an IPSC and USPSA thing that you can find out if you do one of those leagues. They also had first generation red dots. I mean, they were almost as big as a slide on the weapon, but they had red dots. They invested multiple thousands of dollars into this firearm to be able to go as fast as they can. And so you also have to engage in skills that are not translated into real life situations. Like one guy I know who does competitive shooting, when he's ready and he can have his hands by his sides, his dominant hand, his right hand is actually touching the holster in a particular way. So he has always a set start position, and he practices from that position hundreds of draws a week to get that muscle memory ingrained to the point where he can go from holstered to first shot fired in 3/4 of a second, instead of like my slow button, a second and a half. So this is what you're going to have to be in order to be a racer. You don't have to be. I'm not telling you you should or you shouldn't. I'm just telling you what you will have to do to be competitive with that level of practical shooting. So go forth, find a chapter, have fun. Y'all have yourselves a wonderful day. Thank you for watching the entire video. If what I discussed here was valuable to you, I ask that you like, share, and subscribe, and maybe drop a few coins in my tip jar to keep me in ammo. Thank you.